Good morning. Oh, Craig is ready to go with the biggest iced coffee I've ever seen in my entire life. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the PHNX Coyotes podcast. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. I'm Leah, here with Craig in downtown Phoenix, and we got Petey calling in on location from Dallas, Texas.
Petey at the book depository? Chasing conspiracies?
Fine. I actually drove by it last night on the way back to the hotel, but I think I just heard over my headset the Dallas Stars just took another penalty.
As they say. Oh, man. Well, we'll get into playoff talk. I feel like it's been a while since we've even talked about anything going on elsewhere because everything seems to be going on here. But unfortunately, we do have to talk.
We got to talk about a lot of stuff going on.
More Coyotes-related things.
Before we start, though, Petey, is it true that the PA and the NHL are meeting on the grassy knoll right now?
No. I'm not going to talk to you.
No? Okay.
No.
All right.
I've heard the grassy knoll is where the new arena is going to be. Where they're getting relocated to.
I love it.
Houston,
that was
sorry.
a good take. That's
Sorry,
a
Houston.
hot take. It's going on the it's going on the grassy knoll. Makes sense. I may try to ask
the Dallas Shooters, maybe.
Oh.
Way too soon.
Oh.
What were you saying, Petey?
I was just thinking.
The views of Sean DePaz do not necessarily reflect the views of PHNX Sports.
Listen, you were out here talking about the grassy knoll and the book depository or whatever.
Petey, go ahead. Mute their
No,
mics.
it's okay. I may try to get opinions from Dallas Stars fan outside of American Airlines Arena tomorrow on a new Coyote Arena in Arizona.
that'll go
just
well.
Curious to see when they're down 3-0 without their captain and their goaltender playing like shit, if they want to talk about the Arizona Coyotes. And I figure they probably do.
Bring up Houston, too, because they love to talk about Houston. So
I think I might. We'll see how well that goes over in Dallas.
all right.
Oh, man. All right. Well, playoff talk to come. But first, we got to talk about the continued trickle-down effect of this failed arena vote. There's obviously a lot of consequences to this. And, as we've been processing this no vote, we're starting to see more and more the effect this is having.
Yeah. Especially, let's start with this because I need to address this. We're all on edge. I get it. We're all on edge. And Leah will give you a couple remedies for being on edge a little later in the show when we do a couple ad reads. But please remember to communicate civilly on Twitter and in other spaces. I've seen Coyotes fans attacking each other. We're a community. Listen, we're going to have disagreements. There's plenty of disagreements over what went wrong with the Tempe vote, but please, 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 please be respectful. I got to say this. Catherine Coleman's been getting attacked lately because she put out a couple of tweets just calling attention to maybe the fact that the Coyotes didn't do all they could have done. And we've all talked a lot about the mistakes or the misinformation and the uninformed voters, but the Coyotes made mistakes here as well. Twitter is an ugly space sometimes. My wife has actually done research on this. It's a really hard space for women. They get attacked for a variety of reasons. The attacks get personal. They start getting body shamed, and men are all too accustomed to believing that their opinions always matter when sometimes they don't. So I just have a few requests, just as a reminder. We are a community here, and I try to have patience with y'all. Sometimes I lose it too, and might mute you or even block you if you're a complete asshole like little Nathan from Chicago was the other day. Be civil. Sometimes think about, especially if you're a man, because I see this much more with men, think about just shutting up and listening sometimes. But at least be civil when communicating with other people. Please, I'm begging you, let's maintain this community. Let's not tear each other apart at the seams because of all the shit that's happening with this team. That's all I got.
Yep. All right. Well, we're going to talk about, and this actually, like Craig and I had an entirely different show planned today that got derailed at 7:40 this morning.
Thanks, Elliotte.
And that's all thanks to Elliotte Friedman in his 32 Thoughts column, which was 18 thoughts today, Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. And this is what he said, and I will just read the short thought from his column, and then we'll go from there. So in his column, he wrote, Clayton Keller gave Arizona a month or so to provide him with direction about the future on and off the ice. On is much easier. The Coyotes were more competitive than expected and are loaded with draft picks. There's no desire to move backwards. Another team's manager says GM Bill Armstrong has a line, quote, they can't stop us from drafting. Off? Well, who knows? It's all guesswork, and God knows if there's any way to figure it out in 45 days. To this point, Keller is not asking for a trade. But stay tuned. If he's available, there will be a first day Guardians of the Galaxy 3 style lineup. Think they
That's a good line.
Yeah, think they are also being asked about Lawson Crouse.
Yeah. Okay. Y'all know that we had the Bartletts on our show last week. Go ahead.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I know we're going to Nashville soon. Craig has used y'all twice in the show. We need a new ticker.
Warming up, buddy. Warming up.
The OG's y'all count.
Y'all. The y'all counter. Y'all. Okay, just now go back to your thoughts, Craig.
Okay. You know that we had the Bartletts on the show last week. Scott Bartlett is Clayton Keller's agent, and he mentioned that they were in town to have a meeting with Bill. It was obviously about this entire situation, what's coming next. So we already knew this. We were already reporting this. We've talked about it multiple times that this is a tough situation for Bill Armstrong with the core right now, because everybody had bought into the idea that this arena vote was going to go through, and then everything was going to be relatively hunky-dory with the Coyotes. It never is completely hunky-dory. But now that you've got this situation, everybody is left thinking, okay, now what? We have no idea. We could be relocating. We have no idea what's coming next with this team. So Elliotte puts this out. I want to make something clear here. This is not some kind of ultimatum where if the Coyotes do not have like blueprints of their arena and here are the players we're acquiring after a month or 45 days when we get through free agency, that Clayton Keller is going to demand a trade. Don't make that mistake. Look, if ownership comes to Bill Armstrong and says, yeah, you can spend some in free agency to improve this team. And we're not talking about like $8 and $9 million guys, because the Coyotes aren't in that place yet where it makes sense to do that. But if they are actively trying to improve this roster and they have some kind of plan for the arena, I think that could be enough. So don't panic on where this is going yet. I don't think that's the read of this situation, where if we get 45 days out or even 30 days out, right around the draft when they're talking again and we don't have complete clarity on those issues, Clayton Keller is going to demand a trade. I don't think that's what's happening here. So hold your horses. What a terrible expression. I haven't used that in like a million years. Just chill a bit.
You've used y'all,
chill a bit, y'all,
and hold your horses.
Just chill. This is not an ultimatum yet, all right? It is like a lot of people, and I sense this is probably the same from pretty much every member of the Coyotes. They want clarity on where the hell this is going. You'll probably know by free agency what Bill Armstrong's plan is. It's going to be pretty damn clear by then. The arena, they at least need to say, okay, here's what we're thinking at this point. That's not unreasonable for these guys to ask. As we have said multiple times, you can't expect these players to commit their entire prime to a situation where you're not even competing for the playoffs. That's not fair to them. It's completely reasonable of players to say, okay, I don't want to be a part of that. Try and work a trade for me. And clearly that is the job of agents, to try and facilitate that to make their clients happy. But again, chill. We're not at that point yet.
Yeah, but Craig, the issue here for me is Clayton Keller has 5 years left on his current contract. The reality is the Coyotes could say, yeah, you want to trade? Well, yeah, but too bad. Like this is where you are going to play until we tell you otherwise. I think the issue for all of us, people that follow the team, fans, media, players, staff, is exactly what you said, is about clarity. Just give us a plan. We don't need to know the plan. We need a plan. Like, our plan is to stay, and we are looking at this, and we are hoping to have something in this time frame, in this time in the future. That's our plan. Clearly, when you sit down with Clayton Keller and his agents, you need to have a more clear idea. They're not going to tell you and I what they're going to tell Clayton Keller. They may have different plans for him. I think it's just that uncertainty that all of us are facing, except Clayton Keller has an open door. He can go ask, hey, well, what are you guys doing? What are you thinking? I think the hockey side is the less concerning part of this. I do see the building blocks are starting to be in place. And when you talk to people around the league, and I've had a chance to do a lot of that here while I've been out traveling, is people go, yeah, there's a good hockey team starting to grow in Arizona. There's some exciting things, but no one, and I mean no one, can get over the arena. And everybody has their firm, yeah, it's time, get them out. Or, gosh, I hope it stays. But people have opinions on what they should do. I think Clayton Keller is going to be fine. He loves it here. He loves it in the Valley. He loves to golf. He loves what they're doing with the team. He just needs a little bit of reassurance, just like we all do.
We all do.
So let's hope he gets that clarity.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to say when we had the Bartletts on our show last week, and this is something that like I resonated with a bunch too, going back to your point about, I guess, like hate online, what the Bartlett said, like these players, they're human beings first. And when there's any sort of uncertainty in any aspect of your life, it's going to cause you stress. It's going to cause you to ask questions. We're sitting here feeling the same unease that PD mentioned of like, what's going to happen? How does it affect us? So for Keller, like the hockey part is interesting because we knew this team was in a rebuild. We saw, Keller, Schmaltz, Crouse, still committed. Crouse just signed an extension. Obviously, Chychrun wanted no part of it, so he was out. The rebuild stuff for me is different than like the now arena stuff because I think they were committed, or at least so far they've been committed to the rebuild. But now it's like the rebuild plus the uncertainty of the arena. I could see how that would be too much for a human being to think and say like, throw my hands up, like I'm done with this. Yeah. Like I even had the feeling last Tuesday where I was like, can I keep doing this about like the saga? So I understand it from the human element, and I think that's something we have to remember in this whole conversation is first and foremost, these people are human beings, and every human being in their life craves stability for the most part.
A couple more points on this. PD, I'm glad you brought up the contractual thing because that is the truth of this, right? Clayton Keller signed for a long time. Lawson Crouse has signed for a long time. They can say, I want out. And Bill Armstrong can say, yeah, no, you're under contract. You want to take it to the next level where you're a holdout or something? Okay. That maybe that's your leverage. That's your pressure point as a player, or more importantly, as an agent, probably, if you're going to go that route. But that does damage to your reputation as well. So hopefully we don't ever get to that point. But remember also, when we're talking about frustration and how these guys are people, some of the players we're talking about, they were front and center trying to push this arena. They were out there doing PR campaigns themselves. And everything that they were hearing, everything that we were hearing was, this is a slam dunk. This is going to pass. We're going to win this. I'm sure they feel like they were deceived, or that their organization didn't do enough to make sure that it was a slam dunk. And those are reasonable reactions as well on the part of players. So I absolutely understand why anybody on the hockey side of things might be a little pissed off at ownership right now.
100%. Yeah. I had nothing to even add, but there is that little bit of stress. And obviously, like Elliotte pointed out in his column, maybe, in a 2 paragraphs, you can't say what we all just said.
There's a lot more context.
Yeah, I understand that. There's so much more context. But listen, Coyotes fans have enough anxiety about everything else to now have this doubt creep in.
Yeah.
Is really stressful. And if anything, it just reiterates what we said on Monday. Like, while there is no formal timeline by the NHL at this point that we know of, the Coyotes have to figure this out soon because it's going to have an impact. We mentioned the impact it had on Logan Cooley's decision. We're now talking about the core pieces of this future that, all of last season we were, projecting, building around this core. They have to figure it out. Or when this all does get sorted out, and let's just say 5 years from now they're playing wherever in Arizona, is the team just going to be shit because everyone left? Like, how much more rebuild can we endure? And there is something too, like if you're going to keep the team, like it better be a team that's competitive in a few years.
And we talked about those players, the core. I throw Nick Schmaltz in that group as well, but he's also signed for a significant amount of time, so they have a lot more control. A couple other players that maybe people aren't thinking about as much, but Christian Fischer is a restricted free agent this summer, and he becomes a UFA after that 1 year. So he has a little more say in his future. If he decides, I've had enough, you'll know it on signing day because he'll sign a 1 year deal. And then if Christian Fischer signs a 1 year deal, I got a strong feeling that that's the last you'll see of him in a Coyotes uniform. And I know some people are like, well, he doesn't produce the kind of points those guys that we're talking about before do anyway. But as I've said, and I know you guys agree with this, he has a lot of value to this franchise in the room and in other areas. He's a guy who buys into his role. He has been all about the Coyotes. He's one of those guys that has been front and center. Man, if he walks away, that says something about the general feeling of the players about this organization. Another guy, Barrett Hayton's only signed for one more year. He's probably a guy that they feel is a part of their core now. What is he thinking? What is his agent thinking? This has a lot of ramifications that maybe they didn't consider enough during this whole process. Now, look, a lot of this is arena tied, right? If the arena vote goes through, people are probably still feeling pretty good about this. But when you keep extending the rebuild out, there comes a point where players are like, enough. We want to compete for a playoff spot. We're not going to do this for 4 or 5 years so that we can stockpile as much as we, so we feel like it's really sustainable for years and years to come. These are lives, like you're talking about. These are lives, and they want to compete. They want to win. They're not willing to give up this many prime years in a rebuild.
We talked about one of the things with the arena and the possibility of going to a different site, that it could actually proceed faster than the site in Tempe due to the remediation of the land. That's still in place, but that has to happen in the next 30, 60, 90 days. And it can't be just, well, we're thinking of Mesa or maybe downtown, or it might be an island, or whatever the case may be, an opportunity zone. They need a plan. It's here. We're buying the land. We've talked to the city council of that municipality. They have to have a plan in these 90 days, because I think if I'm Christian Fischer and I go, okay, there's a plan. Christian Fischer loves it here. Make no mistake. He loves the Valley. He loves this organization. He wants to play here. He wants to be here when they get through the other side of this tunnel. There is no doubt in my mind that that is the case. He wants to sign a long-term deal. And if he has some kind of assurances that this is the path this organization is on here, I still believe the hockey side of it is stable. I do believe the hockey decisions and their draft picks and their young players, I think that part is stable. And I have a hard time having somebody look at this organization hockey-wise and go, gosh, I'm not so sure. I don't know, because I think it's just of how long can you wait for those guys to play, like Cooley, like Gunther. How long are you willing to wait? But I think they're there. I think the most immediate problem, it has to be for all of us, is give us a 90-day, this is it. We've talked to the Mesa City Council. Here's the land. We've got an offer. We've got this. We've got in talks. We've got... And I just don't think they have a year and a half like they did with Tempe. A year and a half from now, this team will be gone if that's what the window is. So when you talk about Barrett Hayton and Christian Fischer, I really believe they want to be a part of this hockey team. It's, do they want to be involved with all of the rest of it?
Yep. We have a $5 super chat from Jordan. Said, we need firm arena plans in place by game 1. Nothing else matters. I feel badly for the players and team staff right now. TikTok. And I would have to agree with that sentiment, Jordan. So thank you for the super chat. Before we move on from the Coyotes to more around the NHL, I saw this this little comic on Twitter this morning that really made me giggle. I shared it in the Discord. It's from Poorly Drawn Lines on Twitter. It's a little comic of a snail and a mouse, and the snail says, "Everything is changing, mouse. It's all so shitty now." And the mouse goes, "What was it like before?" And the snail says, "Also shitty, but in a familiar way." And I think this perfectly sums up the Coyotes and their fans. So just wanted to share that as well. All right, well, we're going to transition into playoff talk here in a bit, but we got free bets today on BetMGM. So if you're looking at tonight's game between Florida and Carolina and you're thinking, I don't know if I want to put money down, well, go log into BetMGM right now and claim your free bet. Literally just logging in on Wednesday or Saturday, you get a free bet. It's unbelievable how that works. I got it myself. I could speak from experience, and I used it. So if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code PHNX when you sign up. There's a few different offers depending on where you live, but for our Arizona audience, you'll get up to $100 in bonus bets on your first wager with BetMGM. Again, make sure to use that bonus code PHNX. You can check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
Thank you, Shane, and thank you, Foco, for outfitting this studio. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the bobbleheads behind us. There's a ton more off to the side here that you can't see, but that's all provided by our friends at Foco. They have amazing stuff, amazing bobbleheads, apparel for any of your favorite Arizona sports teams or any team elsewhere as well. So they always have our back for Arizona sports. They have yours too. You can get the best gear around by visiting foco.com and using code PHNX for all non-presale items. Use the code PHNX for 10% off. All right. It feels like we have not talked about the NHL in a while, so we're going to do that, and we're very happy to be joined by Petey, who has been on the road in the Western Conference Final, boots on the ground, so get some firsthand thoughts from him. But we're looking at two possible sweeps in both series. The conference finals have been crazy, multiple overtimes in the first two games in each series, just absolutely insane. And now Vegas is up 3-0, Florida's up 3-0. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on these series? It's absolutely insane.
I want to get Petey's first because the Vegas-Dallas one really shocks me.
Yeah, this one, I'll tell you this. I've said this coming to the series, and clearly I had the Dallas Stars in the Stanley Cup Finals from day one, and I don't know how it could be more wrong. This Dallas Stars team, I said their key factor in getting into the Stanley Cup Finals was going to be their goaltending, Jake Oettinger. He has played a huge role in this series. It's just on the wrong side of it. Jake Oettinger has been below a .900 save percentage in every game in this series. He has been average to last night below average. He is not tracking the puck. He's not moving like he normally does. He doesn't play with confidence and that swagger that he normally has. And that is taking a huge toll on this Dallas Stars team. They do not look like the way they've played throughout this 82-game season and even earlier in the playoffs. Unless some sort of miracle happens, this Dallas Stars team is done. You saw with the penalty last night. As soon as Benn took that 5-minute major for cross-checking Stone, game was over. It was 2 minutes into the game. The bench was deflated. Their leaders kicked out. Their goalie's already given up one bad goal. The game was over 2 minutes in, and I don't know how they recover from that. Vegas is playing okay. They're playing okay. They're defending incredibly well. They're allowing very few shots from the interior. They're not giving chances off the rush, and they're not giving up second opportunities.
Thank you for bringing that up because we'll get to Aiden Hill in a minute, but yes, those are important points, the way they're defending.
Yeah, and their defending is great. Their sticks, watching how many times Aiden Hill needs to get a rebound. And believe me, you're right. He's playing well, but this team defends extremely well. But on the offensive side of it, they're not dominating by any stretch. They had 10 shots through 40 minutes last night. They put it in cruise control 8 minutes in. I am concerned that if game 4 isn't more intense, isn't more playoff style hockey, they are going to come into the Stanley Cup Finals not playing their best hockey. They're not having their foot on the gas right now. So that's a one concern for Vegas. This series is over. Like, I don't know how Dallas comes in. If Vegas scores one goal in the first 10 minutes, this thing could get off the rails, very similar to what it did in game 3.
Do you go back to Oettinger? Do you just ride the guy that got you there?
You have to. I don't think if you cannot start Wedgie. I thought Wedgie played well last night. He's been in relief 3 times, and he's come in and played very well. I will say this. The leash on Oettinger tomorrow is so short. Like, if it's a first goal and it's a fumbling, bumbling, slides poorly, ugly goal, I might go to Wedgie right away. Like, the leash is short. It's not 3 tomorrow. It might be 1 or at most 2 early, and you're going to Wedgie because you can't make up a 3-0 deficit. You might, maybe can come back from 2, but you have to go with the guy that got you there. Ottinger's one of the best goalies in the league when he's on. Coming into the playoffs before Bob Roski was even starting, because it was Lions starting when Florida started this venture, Ottinger was the best goalie in the playoffs. He was the guy that everybody said, well, Ottinger can get guys there. Ottinger and Vasilevsky are the two guys. Vasilevsky in the East, Ottinger in the West. Craig, he has been so human and so below average that I'm wondering what the hell's going on. He does not look like himself. He does not have that confidence. He's not moving like himself. I don't know if there's something away from the rink. I don't know if there's an injury. I don't know if there's a problem with his teammates. I don't know if he's just lost all his confidence, but he is not playing Jake Ottinger hockey. Before
we move over to the other series and talk about Bob, who right now is a Conn Smythe Trophy candidate, in my opinion, what'd you think of the Jamie Benn play? What's your whole take on the Jamie Benn play?
Well, first of all, I think what I said held true. After 2 minutes, it was over because of what he did. And you could see this is the captain of your team. He is your leader. He's a guy you need to get you across the finish line in a series like this. And 2 minutes in, he makes a bonehead, stupid, ridiculously unnecessary play. And he's out of the game. Not only does he put you behind in a 5-minute penalty kill situation, he's gone. He can't help you. He's their second leading scorer in the playoffs right now, or in the regular season, and he is not there. I read his comments. Oh, I fell and it was my landing. Bullshit. He hit the guy intentionally in the head because he was right there and he was angry and he saw an opportunity to put his stick through Mark Stone's head. He has to be suspended for this play. Period. I've been in Dallas and people are like, oh, well, it's just fine him and it's just a fine. And it shouldn't be a suspension that's going too far. Has to be a suspension. If you allow a player to put a stick through someone's head and drive it into the ice, you're setting the wrong precedent. He needs to be suspended. And honestly, if I'm a Stars fan, I put this all in his basket right now. That game, you had an opportunity to come back, even down 1-0. You had an opportunity to come back. He does what he does, and you have no chance. This is on Jamie Benn right now. I would look at taking the C away next year. That's how egregious I think this is. That's too selfish of a guy that you need to lead you into the future. Plus, he's getting older for this team anyway. How big is his role going to be moving forward? He made a mistake. I know he made a mistake. Pavelski was covering for him. Made a mistake. Part of this and winning and being a champion is not making those type of mistakes in those key moments of a game.
Especially when you're the leader of a team. Just to feed on that a little bit, Jamie Benn is having a hearing today with NHL player safety, so that guarantees that he will be suspended. Once you have that hearing, you are going to be suspended. It's probably going to be one game, but he will be suspended for Game 4, which could be the rest of the Dallas Stars season. The other thing that really bothered me, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, only media care about this. He didn't address the media after the game. He's the captain of the damn team. You are supposed to be front and center. And I can tell you one guy who never ducked media, no matter what the circumstances were, including after that really tough series-ending loss in the Western Conference Final against the LA Kings. Shane Doan was there front and center to answer your questions every day because that's his job. That is literally in the job description. Do not defend a captain who doesn't, he didn't feel like it or he was upset. Nah, you don't get off with that. That's your job. He was derelict in his duty, and there are requirements, by the way, that these players face the media. So he failed on that front too. I agree with you completely. This is all on Jamie Benn. Strip the C from him because he was anything but a leader in that game.
All right. Well, before we move to the East, there is the goaltender connection. It seems like we talked about this with Eddie Lack yesterday, but 3 of the 4 remaining goalies, or there are 3 on the remaining 4 teams with Coyotes ties. Adin Hill being one who had an all-time quote last night, by the way, when asked about, because unfortunately Dallas Stars fans were, throwing popcorn and ice or whatever it was at the Vegas players, which the Dallas Stars did apologize for today. But when asked about it in postgame, Adin Hill said, quote, "I guess everything was hitting me tonight," which is just an all-time unbelievable quote by Adin Hill. By the way, he was, with the Coyotes organization for a long time. He was in Tucson when I was there, just an unbelievable guy. So freaking nice. So I have nothing but good things to say about Adin Hill, and obviously Scott Wedgwood as well, 2-time guest of this show.
And Auntie Ronto,
and it's
good luck finding better guys than those 3 guys that you're just talking about. Yeah,
crazy the ties. But it is funny how much goaltending has played a role in these playoffs, and how maybe it's been a little bit unexpected in a lot of ways, especially in the Vegas-Dallas series. But we can move over to the East because Bobrovsky, I think, has been one of the big stories in that series, as well as Matthew Tkachuk. Just unbelievable. the series could end tonight. What do you guys think?
I can't even remember who asked me this the other day. Maybe it was it Eddie Lack that was on our show yesterday. I was saying, people are saying, he's still not worth the $10 million.
Oh yeah,
if they win the cup, he was worth the $10 million. That's why you play the game, to win the cup. Yes, and he is rewriting his story with his performance in the postseason so far. To me, especially if Rupe Heinz is going to go out of the playoffs in short order here, which it really looks like he's going to, Matthew Tkachuk and Sergei Bobrovsky are your two leaders for the Conn Smythe Trophy. I'm curious who you think might be on Vegas, but those two guys jump to the fore for me right now.
Yeah, it's funny in this series. When Florida, and we're going to address this once the playoffs are all over, Florida is lucky to be here. There are so many dominoes that had to fall to get this team into the playoffs at all, to play the Boston Bruins. And you go, well, it was nice they got here. They'll play 4 games and go home. And they're 1 win away from the Stanley Cup final. And the goalie that is getting them there right now wasn't even playing in game 1. He was the backup. And he was the backup for the stretch because Lyon carried this team into the playoffs. What? What the hell happened? Bobrovsky right now is playing his best hockey of his career, bar none. I was asked, how do you beat him? I don't know how you beat him. I really don't. He stops everything right now. He's seeing everything. He's athletic. We talk about that, Craig, being an athletic goaltender. It's not just, the puck's here, I'll go down. No, yeah. He is athletic. He's quick. He's reading plays. He is a leader. You know what it does? It gives confidence to your team. And the one thing that I said Ottinger did, he deflated his team. When that backhand went in yesterday on 3-0 from the dot, the team just, their arms dropped and it was over. And at that moment, the game was over. Bobrovsky is doing the exact opposite. His team is flying on cloud 9 because they believe in their goaltender. And when you believe, you have a chance to win. The numbers he's putting up here are so elite because of the ice time. You look at the goals he's given up, but keep in mind, in the first game, they played 7 periods. And he still only gave up 2. So his numbers are by far and above better than anybody else. And you talk about Tkachuk. And I always kind of joked with you, Craig, when you said that he was the best Tkachuk. I don't think I'm joking anymore. I think what he has done in this playoff series with his 2 overtime goals and the way he's led this team, he battles in the corners, he gets to the net, he does it with his fists if he has to. He literally plays every style of hockey you need him to play, and then he scores on top of it. I would love to see him win the Conn Smythe, but if not for Bobrovsky, this team is nowhere near where they are right now. So it is absolutely Bobrovsky. When you go to the other side in the West, the funny thing about Vegas is they don't have a Conn Smythe guy right now. You look at them as they're winning as a team. I guess you go to Eichel and Stone because they're leading the team in points, and they both have 6 goals, but they are clearly doing this by committee. Aiden Hill's playing nice. He's playing really well. He's not playing Bobrovsky right now. I think this is an award that's going to end up in the East just because unless somebody blows things away in the Stanley Cup final, like Eichel goes on a torrid pace for 9 or 10 goals in the finals, I don't see it going anywhere other than Sergei Bobrovsky.
Yeah.
Well, I might use my free bet from BetMGM on that today. Just saying. I've been convinced. But we'll continue to follow along. I think this one's over tonight. I really do.
I think these are both sweeps.
Yeah, which is insane. And we almost could have had all sweeps in the East and West in the NHL and the NBA, spoiled last night by the Boston Celtics. But still, absolutely insane what's happening. And right now we're trending toward a Vegas-Florida Stanley Cup final, which that is a sweaty one. I think Mark Lazarus tweeted that last night. A sweaty Stanley Cup final and also a sunny one. So for all the media, for all the staff and the players who are going back and forth between those two places, got to get some shady rays because it's going to be real sunny in Florida and in Vegas. I love my shady rays. I know you guys have them and love them as well. Check them out. They have, by the way, there's a brick and mortar Shady Rays at Kierland in Thompson. Just to
up in the bougie area where Leah lives.
All right. Anyway, so if you want to go and try them on, but if you can't try them on, you just order them online because they have a amazing policy. If you don't love them, you can return or exchange for a new pair free within 30 days. So check out Shady Rays. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out the best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code PHNX for off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. And Memorial Day sale, of course. It's live starting tomorrow. So let's just say tomorrow, shadyrays.com, you can get 35% off all sunglasses. So check out our friends at Shady Rays. And speaking of Memorial Day sales, there's always sales on furniture, I feel like, for Memorial Day. So check out what more furniture has to offer. I know I said that I was done for the most part furnishing my house. There are 2 things I still need to buy. I've kind of been holding out. So I was literally texting my mom this morning, like, we need to go shopping this weekend. So I'm going to be hitting up More Furniture, and you can save big on the best furniture in the Valley when you head to morefurniture.com. That's morefurniture.com. All right, before we move on to just some other news and notes around the league, we got a super chat from Brady, said, but I thought hockey in the non-traditional markets wasn't, quote, real hockey, LOL. True, Brady, and this is proving a point, and that is one I am sure we will talk about when the Stanley Cup final is set as well. There's been some other news around the NHL besides just the Coyotes and all the nonsense here in the desert. Toronto, where there always seems to be nonsense. This one has been really interesting for me with Kyle Dubas, their GM, got fired last week, but it was a weird timeline because it didn't happen right away. He did speak to the media. Then there was like a quiet couple days, and then all of a sudden he's fired. It was a long weekend in Canada. Brendan Shanahan had a press conference on Friday. Then Kyle Dubas puts out a statement on Twitter, I think yesterday it was. And it was just like, it feels like the circumstances around this were so weird. We have the statement here. I know it's small. I won't read the whole thing, but he starts, while I understand there's interest surrounding the circumstances of my departure, I will not get into the specifics of what I consider to be reasonable and consistent but private discussions, which it's just, I don't know. Everything around it is so bizarre. Normally when a team cleans house, they let go of their coach as well. And normally it's all at the same time. Normally it's right away. So I don't know. This whole situation to me has been kind of bizarre. Do you guys have any immediate thoughts?
Well, I just was interested in the back and forth because it looked like, they had talked about contract, and then it looked like he was going to accept it and looked like everything was going to go well. And then Shanahan changed his mind based on what he heard. It was weird the way it went down. The whole decision was made just felt weird. Well, is he fully committed to this organization? I mean, the guy wanted to have a talk with his family. He delved into mental health a little bit, right? It's not easy working in Toronto. We've made that point clear over and over again. But I don't know. I'm curious what you guys think about what Kyle Dubas said publicly. Did that cross a line to where you don't want that stuff out in the media? Because listen, we criticize our sources for not being open, for not being honest, for not being candid. We criticize them for speaking in cliches and just circling the wagons. And then when a guy comes out and really does sort of bare his soul a little bit, now he's facing criticism for that. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think about all this.
Petey?
I was waiting for Leah from Toronto to come with her thoughts. Look, when you work for the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think it's almost a requirement to tell people what the hell is going on. I think this is the mecca and the center of the hockey universe. Look, Kyle Dubas is getting another job. Mm-hmm. I believe that he's going to work again. Right now on the GM hunt? Brad Treliving is one. Like, I think Brad can work whenever, wherever, and maybe it is Toronto. Who knows? But he's going to work again. I think Kyle Dubas is in that same boat. Kyle's going to get a job again. He's a smart hockey guy. He's well-liked. He's well-respected. He was in a tough situation. For him to come out and say, here's the reality of the situation, I think it's fair. And I think if he doesn't do it, somebody's going to write it anyway. Whether it's there or not, they're going to find out what's going on behind the scenes because it's Toronto. Yep. He had to go. I'm sorry, this team, and here's my personal feelings. Toronto has to win. They need to win because you took out all the things that are the hurdles for the Arizona Coyotes. The arena. Guess what? Toronto's got a great one. Whatever they need. You talk about players. Well, Toronto, who do you need? We will get them for you. Money? Absolutely not an object with the Toronto Maple Leafs. How they do everything in Toronto is first class, and they throw money at any problem that arises. There are no excuses there. So if you don't win and you know what the problems are, their problem going into last season, they had one. Their big problem was goaltending. We need a better goalie. We need to have solid goaltending. If we want to win, we need a freaking goalie. They didn't get a goalie. And so to me, that falls right on Kyle Dubas's plate. So you needed to fill that hole. You didn't fill it. You gambled on Matt Murray. It didn't pan out. You got to go. And so I think Sheldon Keefe's, I think he's next. I'm surprised that move hasn't been made yet.
Yep,
and
agreed.
again, to your point, it's funny how these things don't all happen in a synergistic manner where they all happen. I don't know what you're waiting for. I think he's next, and I think Toronto's going to have to start over. Then we're going to start looking at where do all these players go.
Yeah, I just think based on Shanahan's comments and Dubas's comments that there's just like something that happened that we don't fully know.
He'll come out.
Yeah, it will, like you said. And honestly, like I just wish the best for Dubas and his family. I can't, like, you couldn't pay me any amount of money to be the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm sorry. Like, oh, I can't imagine. And if he wants to prioritize his family or his mental health, and like, I respect that. And we could see him in Pittsburgh. We heard that Pittsburgh asked permission to talk to Dubas. He could have a job as soon as the end of this week. Now with that opening as well, we got Pittsburgh and Toronto, both with open GM seats. We've heard Tree Living's name around Toronto as well. So, these are all things that we'll be following as the summer unfolds.
Yeah, and Brad, it's been reported that he can't talk to teams until his contract expires, which is, I know people are like, oh, that's not cool. But, listen, Brad walked away, right? So he probably knew that this was one of those pieces that came with it. Once we get to June 30th and move into the new calendar year, he'll probably be free. And I'm guessing a team like Toronto might wait around to see if Brad Treliving is interested in their job. But yeah, it would be interesting. Dubas in Pittsburgh, Treliving in Toronto. There are also a ton of coaching seats available. There will probably be more, like you mentioned. I can't believe Sheldon Keefe's going to keep his job. But Anaheim, Calgary, Columbus, the Rangers, the Capitals, they're all open at this point. It's crazy how the NHL coaching carousel produces this many vacancies every summer. I don't know how guys survive in that pressure cooker.
Well, it's not even fair. We talked about this on a few shows ago, where you have the three candidates for coach of the year, the best coaches, the cream of the crop, the guys you turn to in the National Hockey League are all fired. To me, that's what the hell? How do you go from being good to being bad? And here is my biggest problem. And this is the one that I really don't understand. The names you're hearing and reading about in the media right now for some of these open jobs are Mike Babcock. What? Like, I thought we were past Mike Babcock. I thought he lost in college. Like, he lost in Toronto, where they have all the resources that I already told you about, when he went into the first meeting and said, I'm the best coach in the world. Well, you're the best coach in the world with the best budget in the world. But why the hell didn't you win? So his name is coming up again. And then Craig's buddy, Q, Joel Quenneville's name is coming back up again and again. He's reportedly met with Gary Bettman to see if it's time for him to come back in the league, which is another interesting one, because if not for all of the mess in Chicago, he's probably still coaching in Florida.
Yep.
And he might be leading this team to a Stanley Cup this season. So he's interesting. And then another name that I saw yesterday was Bruce Boudreau. Like, are we not done with the Bruce Boudreau experiment? Can we not move on? Are there not new good coaches out there that do we have to keep going back to these same friggin' guys? I just literally don't know. If Darryl gets another job, like, what is going on with this? There are good coaches in junior. There's good coaches in college, and there's great coaches in the American League. Let's give somebody else a chance. Let's not keep recycling these guys that clearly have been fired for a frickin' reason from their other organizations. Take the note from their book and move on.
Yeah, and listen, there are guys who get fired that maybe didn't deserve it, and I will say that at times you get better at your job, right? You learn from your mistakes and you can improve as a coach. But the guys that you're mentioning, like if Mike Babcock gets hired, that's a colossally bad hire by whichever organization hires him. No, just say no. Bruce Boudreau, same thing. No. Darryl Sutter, no. Their time has passed. Do not go down that road. You will regret it. That's a bad hire. I will say that definitively. But yeah, like start looking. Like Spencer Carberry is a name that keeps coming up all the time. A rising Jay Leach is another one who I think was drafted by the Coyotes a million years ago. These are guys that are coming up through the ranks. There's some buzz around them. Give those guys a chance. Spencer Carberry is a guy that a lot of people will talk about as a really talented guy. Scotty Allen coached with him and loves him. Those are the things that I think teams need to be doing. It's crazy how we just keep recycling the same damn names. I don't know what even drives that. If it's just cowardice or lack of work or like just uncertainty. Oh, I don't know if that guy's going to work out yet. We don't know he's going to be a good coach. Well, you already know what Daryl Sutter and Mike Babcock are, and that ain't it.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to make clear too, and you brought up a good point, Craig. I think when we talked about the players or the coaches I talked about, those are guys that I think the game has changed so much since they were an effective bench boss that I think it's time to move on. There are coaches out there that have been fired from their first job. You look at Dave Haxtell in Seattle. He was let go, and you know what? Deserved another opportunity, and he's run with it. And you look at David Quinn. He's another name that comes up, and you go, okay, yeah, he's a young guy that he deserves another opportunity. Those guys are out there. We're going to see what Rick Tocchet's able to do in Vancouver next season. So there are some guys. I don't mean you can't get experience and move on and get another job in the league, because that wouldn't clearly be fair. I've got experience. Look at all of the guys that are coaching this year with different teams that are still in the playoffs that have just moved around. So I understand that you can gain experience and get better and better at your job. I'm saying the game has passed by some of these coaches. You need to coach differently today than coaches coached a decade ago. So that was my point there. But that's why I believe those coaches are in college, and I do believe they are in the American League, because they've been so instrumental in doing the development. And I do think that the National Hockey League, you still need to develop players, even if they're experienced veteran NHLers.
Did you just call Rick Tocchet a young man, by the way?
I don't think I did. I don't know a mistake about that. No.
Okay, the comments are killing me, by the way.
I can't
we have
see them, so it's probably good.
PD for Leafs GM, and then PD to the Rangers confirmed. And then Shane said the streets are also saying PD's going to throw it in a circle in Nashville. Oh, man.
PD, do you know what it means to throw it in a circle? Yeah,
There we go.
Well, you can find out what it means by coming with us to Nashville.
Working in Nashville.
Yes.
Come with us to Nashville.
Segue.
June 27th to 29th. We're just about a month away, and there are still just a few, like literally just a few tickets available for this trip. I'm so excited to go. It's going to be so much fun. Your ticket gets you a pontoon ride, a winery trip. We're going to do meetups. We're going to do live shows. We're going to go out on Broadway. It's just going to be a blast of a few days. So we hope you join us. And like we said, just a few tickets remain. So you got to get them soon before they all sell out.
Yeah. And I listen, this is a big commitment. I get it. But I was pleasantly surprised to see that there are only a handful of tickets. It just says so much about our community. Yeah. This is going to be a lot of fun, guys. This is going to be a lot of fun going to Nashville. If you haven't been there before, you got to see Nashville. It's a really cool place anyway. But to cover the NHL draft, there's the entire NHL world descends on the draft. It is the place to be if you love NHL hockey. So come with us. Buy a ticket.
Yep. Going to be.
And now thank goodness for YouTube, because I have been watching people throw it in a circle over the last several minutes, and not saying it won't happen. Not saying I can't see myself at Broadway at about 3 a.m.
I'm clipping this and using it to try and sell the remaining tickets.
Sean literally left the building. No, he's leaving. He's leaving the building.
Sean just walked out of the studio, so I will carry on. All right, well.
Sean, if you know, you know.
What's happening? Oh my God. All right. Well, if you can't wait that long to hang out with us, then you can this Friday, literally just 2 days from now, because we will be out at the Keeping It 100 golf tournament presented by Pins and Aces and Big Drive Energy. It's a scramble. You get this amazing polo when you join us. And if you're a diehard, you get 20% off events, which is why we recommend becoming a diehard. You can get 20% off the Keep It 100 Classic. You get 20% off the tickets to the to our trip to Nashville as well. And being a diehard, you also get 20% off in the PHNX locker and access to our Discord, which is a ton of fun.
You know what else they're going to get? They're going to get a guest appearance from me at some point during their round, and I'm not going to say anything more than that. But I know my role now at this event, and I'm really looking forward to my role.
Yep, absolutely. So become a diehard today to grab your membership and receive exclusive content discounts and access to our Discord chats. And last thing before we wrap up, there was also a lot of discussion in the chat about what it is Craig's drinking. We did say it was coffee, but there's some speculation that it is in fact some sort of stout or a beer, maybe some sort of cocktail. But
well, it is midday for me, so
you're using that big Four Peaks mug, Craig. And I will say, Four Peaks, they do have some coffee stouts.
They do.
So if you're looking for that flavor profile, that's what's so great about Four Peaks is they have such a huge variety of beers, and you can buy them anywhere you buy beer in Arizona, and of course at their 8th Street pub. So be sure to check out Four Peaks, again, wherever you buy your beer, and keep up with the latest with them at Four Peaks Brew or at Four Peaks Pub. And you got to be 21 or older if you want to drink Four Peaks, and please drink responsibly. Any other final notes before we head out today?
No, not at this point. We'll see what develops later today or tomorrow morning. Who knows what's going to happen in Coyote land.
I got nothing. I just do want to point out this isn't actually real. I'm still in Arizona. This was just a poster.
PD lied about going to the playoffs just so he could
get
out of a week of work.
Nice.
Just get a day off and get out of work for a change. Yeah, I'm looking for the big news around here today will be the Jamie Benn suspension and can Dallas Stars find a way out of this hole, and I don't believe they can.
You know, I have an idea for a segment for you. Just go on the corner outside the book depotory, maybe stand on the grassy knoll and just interview people as they're walking past about Coyotes conspiracies. Maybe that could be a segment that you could do for us. Thanks, buddy.
yeah, hard pass. But thanks though for the idea. Love it.
Good suggestion though.
Yeah. Hey, great idea, Craig.
Oh man, well, it's fun having the three of us back together, and we will be back tomorrow for a live show at 11 a.m. We're gonna check in on some of the Coyotes who are competing for championships. They do exist, and they're in Latvia right now at the World Championship, and Dylan Guenther and Jeremy Langlois in the Memorial Cup. So.
Might have a special guest tomorrow. We're hoping.
Might. So fingers crossed for that one. We have a super chat from Silent Sean, or Schwan, sounds like a Sean Burner account. Craig, speaking of drinking responsibly, who needs to be bribed in order to get full footage of the roast of Shane Doan released?
Petey, we might have to look into that, huh?
Yeah, I'm in. I know people that were there.
We'll start digging.
Oh, man. All right. Well, like we said, we're here every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. for the most part. So be sure to subscribe to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss when we go live to the CIA Kill the Arena deal. Inquiring minds want to know. Thank you for that one, Pat. That's awesome. All right. Well, appreciate everybody for being here in our YouTube chat. Hit the like button before you head out. And if you're listening on audio, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. We sincerely appreciate it. You can follow us on Twitter in the meantime at SPetersHockey, at Leah Merrill, at Craig S. Morgan, at Sean_DePaz. You can follow the show at PHNX_Coyotes. We are, I will tell you right now, 11 followers away from 5,000. So share it with your friends. I hope we hit it today. I think we definitely can do it.
Let's hit it today.
Appreciate you all so much for being here, and we'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody.